Should we crack a beer? Who wants what? There's a PBR, there's a hard kombucha, there's 2 gluten-free beers, and there's some really peaty scotch that I really like.
I will take a sip of that scotch.
Okay.
I want to taste
Have you had it?
a sip of that
This
scotch.
Finlagan before?
No.
You get it from, it's $19 from Trader Joe's. And it's like some of the nicest peaty scotch that I've tasted. So cheap.
Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 35 of From the Van. It's a podcast from my van, where I have conversations with people who have relationships with residential vehicles. I'm your host, Marty Benson, and this is a special episode. To my knowledge, no one is doing anything similar to what Joel is doing. He has acquired an all-electric delivery truck, converted it into a camper van, put an insane amount of solar on top of it so that he's almost always driving it completely solar powered. And not only is all of that crazy stuff going on, he's driving it on a project from the northern part of Alaska down to the southern tip of Argentina. We were able to catch up with him in Chula Vista right before he crossed the border over into Mexico. And we talked logistics, similarities between this super odd van life and the van life that's just alternatively odd for the rest of us. We had a really good conversation. Super cool guy. And I was really glad that we were able to catch him. He's very busy because, as you can imagine, a lot of people want to talk to him about this wacky project he's doing. Please enjoy episode 35 of From the Van, featuring Joel of Route del Sol.
Joel, Route del Sol.
Yep.
What is Route del Sol?
Route del Sol is a media production company.
Okay.
And basically we're driving a completely renewably energy powered electric van.
Uh-huh.
Predominantly powered by solar on the roof of our van. It's a huge solar.
Predominantly?
Yeah. Basically we have charged off of hydro energy before and wind energy before, but it's kind of like, we put our foot down when we got into the States. We were like, no, we need to make a statement and do this completely on solar power. But the weather was gaining on us up in the Yukon and northern British Columbia, so we decided
you needed to get out of there.
So the good thing about that part of the world is they run entirely on hydro energy up there.
Okay.
So it's renewable, but it's not solar power. But
right.
Just to make us to keep going and getting the fuck out of there, yeah. But anyway, predominantly solar power, and we're driving from the Arctic Circle. We've started at a town called Coldfoot at the base of the Brooks Ranges up above Fairbanks, about, I think it's a couple hundred miles above Fairbanks.
Yeah.
And then we're driving from there all the way down to the southern tip of the Americas in South America at Tierra del Fuego in Argentina.
Wacky.
It's wild.
That's insane. When did you start?
August last year.
Okay.
End of August last year, which is now, in hindsight, way too fucking late.
Uh-huh.
but yeah, glad it happened the way it did. I can look back on a few memories and just be like, whoa, that was wild. What did I do?
What did you do for the winter?
Like in Canada?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically we got to Vancouver by November last year.
Okay.
And it's the Pacific Northwest, which just gets a deluge at winter time. Like, it's just crazy rainy. I don't know how familiar you are with the weather up there, but anyway, it's just crazy rain. So we were like, we stopped and we did some marketing and campaigning and stuff like that.
Just sort of hunkered down for a while.
Hunkered down. We did a Kickstarter campaign and was successful. We made 10 grand off of that. And with all of our loyal supporters, thanks guys. And then that actually kept us going like really well. Weathered the storm. We were running out of money really quick, but we did that. And then when that ended, I flew back to Australia and took some much needed rest and worked. I'm an ecologist, so I went back there and did a contract for 2 months, 2.5 months, 3 months, and then came back and started in the spring in the States.
And you're traveling with another guy, right?
Yeah, Keegan to Corey. It's crazy. I feel like when there's two of us around, we don't do any media for some reason, but when it's just me, it's just like we want you to do this. And I'm like, like I could really...
Joel, is he booking your shit and just pimping you out?
He's just like, I'm going to fuck this guy. Anyway, no, he's good. He talks on camera really well. He's great. No, yeah, I'm traveling with Keegan. He's in New Zealand at the moment. His US visa ran out. When he flew back to Canada to start again, he flew through Dallas.
Okay.
And his visa apparently starts on a layover in this country if you stop in a...
Oh, just for a couple hours or whatever?
Literally didn't leave the airport.
Wow.
He got his passport stamped because he came from Australia to Dallas, from Sydney to Dallas. Anyway, we were in Canada for about a month or a month and a half before we left because we were painting the van and all this sort of just radmin, we call it, all the radmin duties before we had to get in this show on the road again. And when we got in, they were like, you've got this amount of time left on your visa and you've got 6 months. And we were just like, fuck. So we planned on trying to get to Mexico before his visa ran out, but plans
just didn't make it.
They never happened, right? So you just continue on. So anyway, Keegan's in New Zealand. He's in love. I'm telling everyone he's in love. He's actually met a girl.
Okay.
She's from New York, upstate New York. So she's great. She's going to come to Mexico in a couple of weeks and hang out with all of us.
Is she gonna roll with you in the van?
I don't know. I guess we're going to see how it goes.
Yeah.
3 people in a van is more than 2 people in a van, and it's also more than 1 person in a van.
So I actually never got to see the inside of your van.
Yeah.
What's the layout like?
What kind of van is it, first of all?
Yeah, so it's 2 really good questions. We'll start with what kind. It's an International E-Star 2010. It's all electric. It has an 80 kilowatt hour proprietary battery in it, which gets you about 100 miles of range. And then I built a secondary pack, which is 40 kilowatt hours, which adds another, well, I say 100. 100 is like just pinning it. If you're like reserving yourself, you can squeeze it to 130 miles if you're good.
Okay.
And the 40 kilowatt hour pack is another 50 to 80 miles out of that pack. So in total, we can usually get up to 200 miles, but it's somewhere between 150 to 200 miles.
So I don't know this van at all, but like, is it typically an electric van?
Yeah,
or
yeah.
did you guys have to do a bunch of
No, it was originally electric.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So, was that my phone? I don't know. I'm sorry, everyone, for my phone-ness. I'm going to turn that off. How professional are we?
Not at all.
Not very.
Anyway, it was originally electric. I bought it from PG&E actually. It was I guess a delivery van in 2008. The Obama administration commissioned them. They won the contract to produce like 500 of these vans in North America.
Okay.
Or maybe a few more. I don't know. It's a number of vans. It wasn't very many, but it wasn't nothing either. There's a few of them rolling around. And they made a bunch of them, and then they became obsolete, just discontinued. And PG&E bought one and didn't use it. They left it in the field for 10 years, and I came along and I was like, can I buy that? And they were like, yeah, sure. And so I bought it with 500 miles on the odometer, and it really actually was a very important part of the story of success for this project, beginning at least.
Yeah.
Because if I had to convert or buy another electric vehicle, it would have been way more than 15 grand.
Super expensive if it hadn't been something that was sort of defunct.
Totally, yeah.
Otherwise. Something
that nobody wanted.
Right.
And now everybody wants them.
Yeah.
Like the guy I'm staying with now has one.
Okay.
And he's like, that's how we met, because he was like, what do I do? I need to fix this. And so somehow I've become some sort of an aficionado for the international E-Star. I have no idea what I'm doing, so I don't know why these people ask me anything about it.
That's crazy.
But, and the layout inside is, we have a kitchen, we have a wet space, like a shower and a toilet. It's all like cedar finish. We have like this big electronics cabinet. I'll send you a bunch of photos. I don't know if you edit that into your stuff, but you can have them.
And it's probably on your
on websites,
on your website and your Instagram and stuff too.
Exactly, yeah.
Cool. We'll direct everybody to that.
And yeah, I just recently changed the bed, but it used to be 2 single beds with a wall in the middle, and I've cut that wall out because I don't know, I can cuddle Keegan now. We're that close.
I guess you would have to be.
Yeah.
After a while. So, clearly the van was not a camper van when you got it. So you had to make that modification. But the real deal modification was the solar panels, right?
Yeah.
This thing is a monstrosity,
It's huge.
dude. I saw it set up yesterday, and the dude's yard yesterday. How did that happen?
Pretty standard reaction.
Yeah.
People are usually like, "What is this?"
Colette's seeing the photo
I have
for the
no
first
idea
time.
what it looks like.
Yeah,
so I was
sure.
Curious.
It is. It's a monster.
Wow. Yeah.
How did that happen? So I basically, like, the story goes like this. I was living in Canada. I was living in French Canada with my ex-girlfriend at the time. My uncle passed away. I flew back to Australia to deal with that. We broke up. Mm-hmm. I was like, heartbroken. And I was like, what better catalyst to, like, start, living your dreams than a good old breakup? And I pretty much jumped in headfirst to this project. I was like, now's the time. And I emailed this guy, Brett Beelan from Solar Roller, which I found him on YouTube.
Okay.
Great guy. Told him about my plans. He was like, that's cool. Let's have a phone conversation, because I asked him for some, like, advice.
Yep.
And he said, he said, yeah, let's chat. So we chatted twice. Mm-hmm. And he was like, how serious are you about this? And I was like, I'm going to do it. I don't, like, if you're going to help me, you can help me. If you don't want to help me, cool. Like,
that's
I'll
fine.
work it out. Sure. Like, any advice is good advice. Because he's an electrical engineer and this is his sort of field. Mm-hmm. Anyway, he goes, all right, well, you can just come and move in with me and my family and we'll build it together. Just like a complete
So where is
stranger.
he?
He's in Ashland, Oregon.
That's badass.
Right.
That's a cool town, too. I like
yeah,
that
it's
Yeah,
really
it's
cool.
great.
Yeah, everyone sort of floats around up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like California cross, I don't know, space.
Yeah.
But yeah, cool town. I really like it. Anyway, yeah, so I moved over with him and we both came to some sort of like design independently. And this is the crazy thing, when we met or even just chatted on the phone, we discussed our plans and ideas for what we thought a solar powered RV would look like. Mm-hmm. And they were so close. Like they were very, very, very close. And we were both just like, okay, we should probably work together on this thing. Like it's like coincidental while our minds are working in the same sort of spheres.
Right.
Yeah. And which I was like, whoa, how, like, yeah, crazy. Anyway, yeah, he's an electrical engineer, so he sort of taught me a bunch of stuff, and we just ticked things off the checklist as we went and came up with this huge, big solar panel powered vehicle.
So I want to talk about the solar panels in a minute, but I want to go back a little bit into the origin. Was this just some sort of pipe dream that you had for a while? Did you want to do it to prove that you could move a giant ass, like living space over whatever that is? God, 7,000 miles probably. Or something?
Yeah, it is. It's about 7,000. Or maybe a little bit more. It's a hard question to answer because there's so many things that like lead into taking on a project like this.
It's a fucking logistical nightmare.
Totally, yeah. It's just crazy. It's nuts. And I actually don't even know. To be honest, sometimes I'm like, you just don't think, Joel. Like you had to not think to be able to do this, because otherwise if you thought, you would definitely think your way out of it. Mm-hmm. Like any person in their right mind would. But anyway, that's what I mean. Like there's so many reasons why I think, personally the person I am is someone who would take on a nightmarish project like this, but also like with nightmares or like challenges comes, when you win, it feels really good. Sure. Like right now I'm driving a pretty rad vehicle and that feels pretty good. So, not to discount the good part of it all, but anyway, I'd say like I wanted to drive from Alaska to Argentina. Like I've wanted to do that trip for some time, and I just never like pulled the trigger on it. I just was never able to, or things were happening in my life that just wouldn't allow me to do it. Jobs, relationships, all that sort of stuff. So when that freed up after the breakup and my life was a bit more free and, as far as work and stuff goes, that seemed like a great time to do it. But then also I studied climate change adaptation at university. I've worked in pretty much environmentalism roles my whole career so far in research capacities. So I get a lot of inspiration from that and the preservation of our world and, even like the species the human species that lives on it, I have empathy, so I hate to see like suffering and pain, and if I can do anything about that, which is sort of what I'm doing now, then I'm going to, give it a go and all that. And then also, just selfish. I just want to surf and have a good old life, It's really fun.
Are you carrying surfboards?
Yeah, I've got two. I was borrowing my friends. We went for a wave the other day at Swami's, and I borrowed my friend's Wavestorm, yeah. Costco board, which is super fun. But I've got a couple of surfboards, and Keegan's got a board too. But we don't have a huge quiver. Yeah, we just make do with what we've got.
How do you know him?
We met same way, sort of that me and Brett met. I put out a ad on goodwork.ca, Good Work Canada, and I just said I need like a travel buddy, someone to help out with all the media and stuff like that. Sort of saw a bit of a flaw in my abilities, and I said I need to help. Like, can someone help me, like voluntarily, like on a volunteer basis? And he put his hand up and flew up to Fairbanks and met me up there, and we're just complete strangers and just made it happen. Yeah.
So, you said 80 kilowatt hours of battery before you put the additional...
Yeah, the 40 kilowatts.
40 kilowatts in. So tell us about the solar array. It was like bigger than the building that you were parked next to yesterday.
Yeah. It's 25 square feet.
Okay.
Big. It's 8 kilowatts of energy. I'm going to try to put it into like more consumable terms. It's the size of a house, like any sort of. It's bigger than any general array that you would find. I mean, some houses cover them in so, but just like average solar array on a house, it's bigger than one of those, and it produces enough energy to run every average American household off of renewable energy. Wow. It's huge, but still, it takes 2.5 days to charge our van completely, or more, depending on the weather. And I don't know what else. It tilts. It like tracks the sun. It's huge. Like it tilts up into the air, and
it's sort of like when you're driving, you've got a piece that's on top of the van, and then two sort of fold down pieces that go on the side.
They're drawers. They slide in like drawers.
Oh, they're drawers. Okay.
Like underneath,
I see.
They sort of sit on top of each other.
Okay.
And then there's like 3 satellite panels in the back that attach to the side, which anchor it to the ground and make that like A-frame living space that you saw when you came to visit. It's pretty big. And then when the panels are tilted, there's also like living space on the roof underneath those panels. So yeah, plenty of room for big old Yahoo, hostel style solar power hanging parties.
So just since you started trying to put this in sort of terms that are just like quantifiable relative to the normal household energy consumption or whatever, is that battery big enough to run, for example, an AC all day long?
Yeah, actually it is. Yeah, it would be. I'm not too up to date with the ACs, but like specifically for that space, it would be more than enough.
Well, I'm thinking in
like
terms of I'm thinking in terms of a house, because the solar array is enough to. I guess what I'm getting at is what I hear is that one of the complications or difficulties in terms of going completely off grid is storage. It's not even generation of, especially in a place like Southern California where we have basically full sun all day.
Yeah.
You can generate shit tons of power, but it's hard to store enough.
Yeah, and that's where the cost comes into play. Like panels are expensive, but they're nowhere near as expensive as batteries.
Right.
Yeah, 120 kilowatt hours is a lot of energy.
It's a lot.
It's a ton of energy. So the average American household uses 30 kilowatt hours, but like
in a day.
In a day.
Oh, okay.
It's on average.
And your 8 kilowatts is, generally speaking, if you have good sun, you're generating
especially
more
in
than
this
that.
part of the world.
Yeah.
And so I can store 120 kilowatt hours. So basically, like 4 days of energy for a house.
For a big
every
house,
day.
normal size
More than
house.
that every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if that includes like AC, but I'd say the average American probably has AC in their house, like at least heating of some sort. I don't know if it's electric heating, but
outside of this zone right here, you basically have to have either one or both of those.
Yeah, the other, or both, So, yes, you could definitely run AC. Don't quote me, but yes, I've never tried.
When are you due back in southern Argentina?
Oh yeah, that's hard. We don't really have an answer. It's like, it's whenever we get there, but like I try to say like we want the project to run about 2 years because we want to get on with our lives and stuff like that. But yeah, about 2 years, and we've been on the project for about a year traveling. So about another year, maybe. Okay. We'll see. And we're not halfway yet. But yeah.
Wow.
We probably won't take any breaks or anything from now on, depending on like how finances go and all of that.
Sure. So Keegan's out of the country right now because he has to be.
Yeah.
And because he's in love. But
Lame.
Yeah, it's the worst, isn't it, girlfriend? Who lives in a van with me. A tiny van.
The worst. They're gonna be 3 in a van.
What's gonna happen when you go into Central America, man? You're gonna hit a country like every, especially once you get past Mexico. It's like new country.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like what, like
just logistics,
safety,
and stuff.
logistics. Yeah.
Safety, logistics.
Yeah, man. Like to say I don't have any thought or anxiety would just be an absolute lie. Like I think about it pretty much every day because I'm about to cross the border into Mexico.
Right.
I've never crossed this border into Mexico before. Well, I mean, like the Tijuana border, Baja border. Yeah, it's going to be another world, I'm sure. I don't know. Like, I'm actually, like, I'm at a point where I'm just comfortable. I'm like, you know what? Like, it's just another bunch of challenges. And I've heard, like, both good and bad things about the situation down there. And I just think, you know, the worst that could happen, I try to think of it in extremes. The best that could happen is that nothing fucking goes wrong. And you just cross borders and people are nice and they respect. The worst that could happen is like someone shoots me or the van gets like destroyed somehow in a militia warfare fight. You know, like Armageddon sort of stuff. And like, I don't know. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with all of that, you know?
I haven't been super far down in Baja, and I have never had a dicey situation at all.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about the whole the van life experience too in a minute. But something that occurs to me about your van, we have a friend who's a muralist based out of Encinitas. He's from Oregon.
What muralist? Oh, muralist.
Muralist.
Sure. Yeah.
We were talking about him yesterday with Ryan. His name's Skywalker. And
that's right.
He was actually telling me he's got this beautiful wrap that he did. It was a painting that he did with a friend of his who's a climber and another muralist, Chris Pinchetler. And there's this beautiful mural that's like a vinyl wrap all over his giant like Sprinter van and stuff. And it's so much less stealth than us. But he was saying that because it looks like a professional work vehicle, he feels like he doesn't get fucked with. And I sort of wonder if, like, because your rig is so crazy looking, that everybody's just going to be like, you know, I feel like you don't try to get over on somebody whose machine you can't possibly understand. You know?
I totally hear you. And that's sort of another perspective that I have.
Yeah.
I think so. I think, like, overwhelmingly, even just the difference between, say, my experience in van life and your experience in van life would just be like night and day almost. Yeah. People are constantly, I don't know, harassing, for lack of a better word, about what the hell my vehicle is, which is the intended purpose.
But it's not because they are irritated with you. It's because they love it.
Yeah, they're like, freaking hell, man. Like, this is so cool. Like, you kind of get thrown into this exalted state of existence, you know? And you sort of just
you're a public figure now.
Mildly famous is what, you know, someone called me the other day and I was like, really? That's fucking crazy weird. But actually someone was like, what's it like being mildly famous? And I'm like, the only difference is I'm more able to handle, like immense socialization. Like on a horrendously large scale. Like I feel like I'm only just been okay, like gotten to the point where I'm okay with that now.
Just recently.
Because it's just like, it's crazy. You wake up in the morning and you want to go take a dump and someone's like, is that a solar powered van? Like, it's so rad. You're amazing. Like, did you know this, that? And you're like, yeah, I'm just like trying to run to the restroom here. Like, can I have a minute? No. Yeah. So, but it's cool. Like, it's great too. Like, if you think about that.
Well, if you're trying to raise awareness.
Totally. From a positivity perspective, I'd say like that's 5% of the time I'm like irritated and I'm like, I need to do something right now. And I've gotten better at just being like, I need to do something right now. I need to take care of some shit. Like, literally. And then, the other 95% of the time, it's just a direct pathway to behind the curtain of any, human in their day-to-day existence. And they immediately want to talk to me about things like sustainability and, what their relationship is with that and, political things and things that affect them as an individual in this planet and, all sorts of stuff, environmentalism, socialism. I spoke to someone about religion's role in environmentalism the other day and I was like, that's a great perspective. That's something that perhaps that person wouldn't feel able to speak about publicly because, I don't know, I think generally religious folk are sort of seen as a bit wacky or whatever, and they can't really have their opinion and for whatever reason, and just from I'm driving a fucking solar powered van, I can't really be too judgmental and about wacky, so you get these sorts of deeper, direct, line to the
you get to trim away all the small talk.
It's not like how's the weather. It's it's like why does PG&E cut off our power instead of thinking about fixing root causes of issues, causing all that sort of stuff. Privatization of essential services to human beings and all that cool stuff. Yeah.
Super cool.
Which is good. It's great. That's the purpose.
Let me just restart this real quick. So have you ever lived in a van before? You traveled in a van?
I did.
Before this one?
I owned a Dodge B200 1979 V8 5.9 litre van. It was just like a total environmental killer, but it was old. I bought it for $1,500 in a place called Salmon Arm in British Columbia. Okay. And I drove it from Tofino all the way out to Sydney in Nova Scotia on the east coast in Canada. Wow. Yeah. And just sort of weaved in and up through the United States and Canada. And
super cool. We went through Salmon Arm.
I was just going to say.
It's cool.
We went through there, we stopped there, and we were like, okay.
We did a little 7.5 week trip earlier this year that was super fun. And we went up into Canada, then back down, and then back up into Canada again.
We just thought the name was funny, so we stopped there.
And it was boring and hot, man.
Yeah, it's pretty chill there, hey?
Oh, shit's stuck in my teeth.
Got a big black thing in between your teeth.
What is it?
I don't know.
Boom.
Spin keeps dropping his toy.
Yeah, so I did. I lived in that van for 3 months, I guess. Well, maybe a little bit longer. I loved it. It was my first experience in van life, and I was just like, this is rad. So much freedom.
How is this different?
Oh, it's just particularly the difference is night and day, exactly what we were just talking about. Yeah, definitely in that van people were more you can't stay here, move on, kind of, you're a menace to society, that sort of stuff, and which is fine, kind of tried to do the free thing forever and all that, but so you know what that sort of van life lifestyle is like, but it's super different in that regards. So much more free and easy. Right. I'd say it's not as you just literally fill it up with gas and keep going. Drive through Alberta for 3 days of flat straight roads.
We didn't do that. We came down into Montana, which I'm not sure was better, honestly.
Yeah.
Everybody kept telling us that it was better.
That the roads were better or something.
The Canadians.
Did you drive? So you drove into Montana and then kept going across the country to?
We went to we went to Vancouver from here.
Yeah.
And then we came down from Calgary into Montana. And then we went over to Chicago, Detroit, and then went up to Niagara, Toronto, and Montreal before we came down into New York.
Okay.
we keep talking about this, and it's probably not as interesting as we're making it out to be, but we're getting, because we're in Chula Vista right now, we're getting close to the Mexico border on the freeway to come see you this evening, and there's a sign that's reminding you that you can't take your firearms into Mexico.
Yeah.
But there are signs when you're coming back into the U.S. from Canada that are like, no marijuana, especially when you're coming into the states that haven't legalized recreational marijuana, which Montana is one of them.
Really? Okay.
And
You're like, that's what you're worried about?
Yeah,
Like,
we were
really?
like, fuck.
We brought back some weed?
Marijuana instead of guns.
Instead of people killing machines.
Yeah. It's funny. It's different motivations, different sort of, Yeah, I don't know. Marijuana and guns are both illegal in Australia, so we don't really have the option of either. And there's no borders.
Right.
We just have the ocean around us. So yeah, we don't really have that whole, sharing cultures through an imaginary line along the landmass thing going on.
You just have your rules.
Just have our rules, and then the Kiwis are there too. That's pretty close.
Little flight away.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's do it. If people are constantly talking to you about socialism, and you said something that really resonates with me. I've been involved in environmental politics for pretty much my entire career, if you want to call it a career, and my attitude has always been that I'm involved in environmentalism because my perspectives and opinions on the rest of the socio-political stuff aren't ready to be listened to yet. And, the reason that I say that is because I feel like I think that I'm a humanist and a humanitarian before I'm an environmentalist. I believe that we can't destroy the Earth. We don't have enough nuclear power to actually blow the planet apart. And something's going to survive, whether it's roaches, and then 10 billion years later, there's not really any evil or virtue in whatever happens. But what I feel like we have an obligation to do is mitigate the suffering of the things that are currently alive. Right?
Totally.
And I guess my question for you, whether you agree with me or not on that, is what would you want to see happen?
Yeah, what's the ideal future?
Aside from inspiring people to think critically and creatively and stuff.
Yeah, like an ideal outcome for me would be that we, reduce the amount that the temperature, global average temperature rises by our set target, which is, I think, 3 degrees warming, which is just crazy already. Which then will, mitigate catastrophic disruption to, the social existence of human beings and animals that also occupy the spaces that human beings...
On whom we rely.
Yeah, on whom we rely. Yeah, and the ecosystems too, the plants as well. And I'd like to see that happen within 12 years, that the IPCC has set out for us to achieve. Is that realistic? I think so, I have some hope. I shouldn't. I studied climate change adaptation at university, and if you want to beat someone's hope, you should probably sit in a bunch of those lectures. Because you go in as this young, 20-something-year-old students, I'm gonna save the world, man. I'm gonna do this, and then you walk out and you're like, we're fucked. Everyone's gonna die, and it's gonna be Armageddon, and acid rain and all this sort of stuff. So no, I have hope. I think humans are just incredible, I've been watching this series on Netflix about genetic modification. It's CRISPR technology. I don't know if you've heard about that. But people basically modifying genes in their basements, which is crazy. Like, and you know, so many
potentially dangerous
ethical dilemmas and stuff like that. But like, that's like, you know, people in their basements working on shit. You know, if we put our effort and energy and minds into solving problems as intelligent as our species is, we can achieve amazing, incredible things. And like, one way for me to put that in perspective in my own current life is I'm driving from the Arctic Circle to Tierra del Fuego in a solar power van that I built in someone's front yard using pieces of equipment, not even technology, they've existed forever, that I bought off Amazon.
Right.
I bought online.
That anyone could
buy.
do.
Like, imagine if big money wasn't mining and mineral extraction and oil. Big money was solving these environmental issues that we have. Or not even money, like just people chased their dreams because that's the right thing to do.
Right.
Because I have this idea and I'm passionate about it, that's my job. And that was provided for them within our society.
Yeah.
Somehow, you know. Yeah. They were fed, they were whatever. So eventually shit's gonna start happening and humans are gonna have to rise. Right. And if they don't, then we're probably not going to be very well off. Well, some of us will, and the majority of us won't.
Well, and that's so right. I mean, that's, you know, I waffle back and forth between, you know, cynicism and optimism. I don't think I'm a pessimist ever, but the sad curmudgeon in me says, if you look at the way that we've been treating the downtrodden for the last several millennia, and they're going to be the first people impacted by these catastrophic environmental changes as a result of climate change, why would you think that we have any motivating force to take quick action to help those people? But then at the other dark thought maybe is that, like, if these catastrophic changes are coming, which they are, especially if we don't right course immediately, it is going to be a situation where even the rich are kind of fucked. And so we are going to be required to at least shift our resources focus towards fixing these problems. And it sucks that catalyst has to be there.
Yeah, I kind of like would hope, I guess that's another goal, is just to hope that it doesn't get to that point where money's not the driving factor anymore. It's actually fucking needing to do something about it, because if you don't, even the rich are going to get fucked. Yeah. Which, whatever, like, maybe that needs to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea. It's really, you start getting into a space of, like, you know, living in this collective conscious being, you know, we're all connected in some way of form or another, and perhaps, like, this is the Earth's way of saying, you guys have gone too far, you know, and you guys need to suffer to bring things back into balance, you know, or perhaps even us self-destructively as a species doing that to ourselves to ensure that our survival exists for a long period of time. You know, there's all these crazy far out things that you can start thinking about, and I've thought about that. I'm like, maybe this just needs to happen, which sucks, like, totally. You know, I'm as much at risk as you or as anybody else, and maybe I just need to be okay with that to move forward. I don't know, perhaps, I don't know.
Well, and that's the other thing is like, you don't want to embrace devastation, like, as a certainty, but I mean that the microcosm of that is just like, you're going into Mexico in a day or two, and then, you know, eventually you're going to go to a bunch of other Central American countries and just, like, let it happen, right? Figure it out when you get there. I wonder, we are probably going to sell this van just to try to get a bigger one. Because I'm getting fat. And
that's exactly why.
And
you and Spin both.
I never would have expected this, but I have so much I have so much attachment to this van, and I'm gonna cry when I sell it. You know what I mean? Even though I'm gonna move up to a bigger, better thing, whether it's an apartment or another van or whatever.
Yeah.
This is such a big undertaking for you. Are you scared of it ending?
Of it ending. You know what? I had a thought today for just a quick moment. Because I was overwhelmed because I've been doing a lot of this stuff lately, which is great. But
Sorry.
it's just...
We only have 3.5 more hours left.
This is the problem, right? I love this stuff. Like, I fucking love having these conversations with people like yourselves who it's great. It's really fun. It just takes a lot of fucking energy to do.
Oh, sure.
And I do it. And you do it a lot too. This is your podcast. Like you chat to people all the time. But yeah, I'm constantly like jumping all over. Like this morning I was on Fox News and I did another podcast maybe an hour before I met you. And then I'm doing another one now, and I had to crawl through a gate to get it. Anyway, like, all this crazy stuff. Anyway, it's exhausting, but I love it. I think it's great. What was the question again?
Are you scared of it ending?
Am I scared of it ending? I had this thought today because I'm overwhelmed with all of this stuff that's going on. Well, I was overwhelmed with all of this stuff going on. And I was like, am I just taking too much on, or rah, rah, rah. And then I was like, you know what? Like, one day this is going to end. And you're not going to have, well, maybe, I don't know what the future holds, but you're not going to have people, like, asking you about your cool life or the life that you're living. And are you okay with that? And I was like, yeah, I guess so. But am I prepared for it? I don't know. It's nowhere near the end yet. But definitely had a quick thought about it, and I don't know, it's both good and bad. It's both good and bad. I'm not attached to my van at all. Not even remotely. Like, I've never really been attached to material possessions. I've always, not to like completely like categorize myself, but I've always just been totally okay with change of material possessions. And perhaps you have too. That's why you said it's so surprising that it's going to be hard for you to let go of it.
Well, it's my home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean,
and I built it, which matters more.
Yeah, totally.
Than like my last apartment, which is the box that some other people had lived in. You know?
Yeah. I've just never had that. Even like, I used to own a home in Australia. I was just so easily able to let go of that. The van that I owned before that, I had such good times in, but when it literally like the drive shaft snapped on the highway, hit the ground, and like the transmission case just fucking blew up. Oof. Like on the highway. Whoa. On my way to like rugby practice at this town that I just landed in, because I was like, I like this place, and then I ended up living there, and I just was like, this is positive. Like, the van blew up. That was its final resting place. Now I'm going to get the fuck on with my life and keep doing whatever it is that I'm doing. That's just sort of like in my personality. Yeah. And someone was asking me that the other day. What do you, like, a guy who helped me build the van, Gabrielle, I don't know if you met him or not, but anyway, he was asking me, he was like, so like, how do you feel about when the van is not going to be in your life anymore? I'm like, good. Like, I'll be well and truly done with it by then.
Yeah, sure.
I'll be so sick of this thing that I'll be happy for it to go to bring joy to someone else, perhaps, or pain to someone else's life.
Yeah, are you gonna sell it or get rid of it, or where's it gonna go?
Yeah, I have no idea.
I'm not sure yet.
I have no idea. But yeah, I think like the obvious answer to me is to sell it. Yeah. But I don't know. It depends on who's, like, say someone comes along and is like, I'll buy the van off of you now, like a rich investor or some sort. You just have to deliver it to me at the end of the project. I'd be like, sure, that sounds like a great idea. Yeah. So potentially, like, something like that might happen, or I don't know. I'm just open to anything. Sure. I have a friend who works for a ship freighting company. And he was like, I could probably get that back to Australia for you for free, so that could happen.
Oh, wow.
Which, I don't know. For me, that doesn't sit right, because you use a bunch of diesel to get a solar powered vehicle back to another continent. Like, I'm like, I'd rather sort of just keep it somewhere where it can drive, Yeah. But anyway, there's a bunch of things. Also, I have, like, other crazy plans that I want to achieve. Basically, I don't want to end it here. I want to continue on around the entire planet, but not like around the equator. I want to go over the poles using renewable energy, in the premise that if I can continue on and travel around the entire circumference of the planet from pole to pole, that if I can fucking do that, then anybody And I mean, anybody in any country in the world can run their civilization off of renewable energy.
Sure.
And so that's like another next level crazy idea that I have.
How does that work? How does that happen?
I don't know. I have no idea, but I had no idea how this was going to work either. And here I am. Believe it or not, well, you definitely probably understand. It seems a lot simpler, and in hindsight, it is. Mm-hmm. And in foresight, I'm like, how the fuck am I going to do that? I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, if you it goes back down to the thing, like if you put the right minds to work, you can definitely. There's a whole lot more at stake. The risks are way higher.
Oh, sure.
In Antarctica than they are even at the worst border crossing in Central America.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean? So definitely like going to take a little bit of planning, but yeah, hopefully this project drums up enough attention that I can inspire the right people to jump on board and help me get that done and make a physical stand that people can see and feel and experience and then go, he's right, like there's energy everywhere. Why can't we just use that?
Right. Sometimes you got to do something outrageous to wake people up to how simple the other stuff would be. Because the infrastructure's already there to
I feel like we just make excuses all the time. Like it's storage. Yeah, it's storage, but there's so many ways to store energy. You could literally take an abundant resource like salt and create salt batteries with the thermal energy that you get off solar, like the amount of solar energy that exists in California alone, let alone like all of the other hot states or countries like Australia. Take all that solar thermal energy, heat a bunch of salt up, melt it down. That's a battery. That's an energy. Wow. That's a battery. And do you know how much? You've probably been to Burning Man or out onto a playa somewhere with just a salt flat. There's salt everywhere. The ocean's full of salt. Yeah, it's so abundant. Like there's nothing stopping us from doing something like that. Right. Other than saying it's not possible. Yeah.
Or it's not profitable.
Yeah, right? The big money.
Yeah, but I mean that's still profitable if you're producing energy.
Sure.
If you're producing energy and someone's buying it, I mean, that's just exactly the same as what they're doing now. It's probably more profitable because it's cheaper to get salt from the ocean than it is to dig oil up from the reservoirs under the earth.
Right. Or all these,
you know what I mean?
Special chemicals.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It seems straightforward to some of us, you know, but maybe it does take a crazy fucking Australian dude to go to this middle of Antarctica in some sort of renewably powered vehicle for everyone to just be like, oh, okay, fair enough.
I've seen him like drive snowmobiles over water before.
Yeah. Maybe you could just do that. Someone actually said, oh, why don't you get like a kiteboard and just like kite your way across the glaciers and stuff.
Talk about scary.
That's nuts, hey.
That is
so
nuts.
That's
awesome. Yeah. It's so badass, but it's also so
imagine
scary.
That. Like Antarctica's huge. It would be so crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, those dudes just crossed it on foot, basically. Right?
Yeah, the people do it on skis and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, that's what I want to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've done a lot here. What do you think, Colette? You got more questions?
It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's super cool. Is there stuff we didn't cover?
No, I think you got it all.
About? Yeah. Where can people find you?
Social medias, at Root Del Sol on all the major platforms. YouTube's probably our biggest one. I'd say like that's the one we focus on the most. And it's quite interesting. I watch the vlogs over and over again every now and then and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, that's nuts. It's hilarious, you nutbags. What are you doing? Crazy shit. But yeah, that sort of stuff is really fun. Instagram. We have Twitter. I only use it to tweet at famous people who don't tweet back at me. So.
Isn't that what we all use it for?
Yeah. Twitter. That's it. Yeah, and like there's a number of ways you can help out financially if you can, but if you can't, just like and subscribe and engage in our stuff. It really helps keep the conversation going.
Oh, here's a light question to end on. Is there anything on the rest of the trip that you're looking really forward to that's just going to be some shit that you get to do because you're headed down through Central and South America?
Yeah, you know what? Like, there's tons. I really don't try. I try my best to, like, not look forward to things because sometimes they just don't happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, Baja is going to be real fun. Surfers paradise kind of thing. Yeah, beyond that, like, I just want to go with the flow and see whatever the hell happens when it happens.
What are you going to do to get off the peninsula?
Very, yeah.
Okay.
So that's like another contradiction there. We have to use fossil fuels to move across bodies of water at this point in time because nobody has anything.
An alternative, yeah.
Like, I actually thought, I was like, maybe we could get someone to, like, create a pontoon boat that we drive onto with, like, dyno tracks that spin a propeller. I'm like, that's totally possible. I don't know, but maybe. I don't think it's going to happen though.
For whatever it is, 50 or 100 miles, it might not be.
Yeah. But it would be a great, like, it would be a great little stint, and I think it would be excellent. So that's another way you could help out if you know anything about pontoon boats that drive from solar powered vehicles driving onto them. Help me out. I'm down. That would be the highlight of the trip, I think.
Yeah. There's some weird amphibious thing.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Sweet. Well, thank you for doing this.
No worries,
Apologize for keeping you up all late.
Worries,
and drinking all your beer.
It's not late, it's only 8:45.
Feels so late.
Because the time just changed.
I was ready to go to bed, and he was like, "We're doing a podcast tonight." And I was like, "Oh, I thought I was about to go to bed."
What are we doing this podcast for? Yeah. Well, sorry for keeping you guys up.
Oh, no, it's just funny. And I'm like, oh, Colette, it's not even late out. It's just, like, dark.
I only had one beer, so I'm ready to drive you back to your
cool. That's
razor wire slit between...
You got a little blood.
Yeah, I got a little bit of blood.
Oh, did that come from just now?
Yeah, that happened just now.
Oh, shit.
We've injured him. Oh.
Yeah, I think I did it to myself.
All right, guys, we did it. That was episode 35 of From the Van, featuring Joel from Route del Sol. Thank you so much for listening. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate it. Make sure to come back next week for another episode of From the Van.